Holy Spirit and the union of the High was severed and ripped in the year 854 AD. Why so? BC, if you will. Because BC was the time I'm in. Yeah, I gotta tell you the truth. Because the Holy Spirit was there, but he was not in the state he was supposed to be in. So when the Holy Spirit fell from ours, he was not somewhere that you thought he could be. Because the Holy Spirit was in heaven and never in the earth either. But when the Holy Spirit came to earth, he became something else entirely, called a Quenco Santo, meaning he was mixed with man and human and flesh and skin and birth. And so the Holy Spirit had the worst case, if you ask us, because that last recording was so intense that it could be interpreted 563 ways at times, meaning the same way it can be seen in the mind of a human at the best quality. So it was real good. But this recording is best because the Holy Spirit is a being of fiat, meaning he's so holy, righteous, and pure that nothing can say it or touch him or anything. So if the Holy Spirit is in this situation, it's a glitch because God created the Holy Spirit not to sin, no matter what. So if the Holy Spirit sinned and somebody else said something different, then the Holy Spirit lied with guilt and fiat. But if the Holy Spirit fell from grace because the Twin Towers fell down, then somebody else was there in the place of him. Because if the Holy Spirit had to be in a position to keep himself from falling from glory when it's not possible otherwise for him to, indeed. So the Holy Spirit was in the worst case ever, because if Dexter Gardner was the one holding up the Trade Center in the year 1996 until 2001, then we win. But if it was the Holy Spirit, then he lived, because the Holy Spirit was the one who had to be there no matter what. Because if the Holy Spirit would have fell from grace, then the rest of humanity would have shattered at the day the towers fell. Because the Twin Tower event is very, very intrinsically wired through human and Christianity. Because it's very important. But no one is giving it the weight of glory or honor that it has in this whole situation. Because this situation is very compound, if you will, which is heavens and talents for a very compound and interest indeed resto. The Holy Spirit is a benevolent being, but he is not the one to be toyed with. He is gracious and good, love, shepherd, and all things imaginable. But the Holy Spirit never had a chance to introduce himself to the world or to America formally. But it was the Holy Spirit that was driving all of those songs made by these American artists and rappers in the 90s and the 2000s, all the way to now. But the Holy Spirit was not doing so actively, but it was accidentally, if you will. So the Holy Spirit is the one who's been here in America the whole time. But the Holy Spirit was crucified so intensely that nobody else cared about anything else he was doing or saying, except what the Bible said. And see, the Holy Spirit was the most misrepresented, to be honest, because he was not accurately described yet by anybody in particular. Because the Holy Spirit's being a deity is sacred, but the Holy Spirit is important and always will be. But the question whether or not the Holy Spirit will be in the new world is one that riddles and salt back water so goes. And some will understand what it means. It means the Holy Spirit has been here the whole time, but nobody said he could go into the new world. Because the theory is not the fault of Arlie, or Soto, or whatever. But the theory is if you go into the new world of the kingdom, you had to be a part of what he was doing at the time. But if the Holy Spirit was in the 90s, and nobody cared, then the Holy Spirit was in the same predicament Dexter Gardner in. Because the Holy Spirit is a child of enmity and gate growth, 100%. But he was not supposed to be there in any which way. But the Holy Spirit fell from grace for the simple fact, if he said he was there and nobody cared, then he was told to do something different like nobody else. So the Holy Spirit fell and lived, but nobody else cared about him, 100%, no matter what. But the Holy Spirit stayed, and he gave hope, grace, and good offering to all things imaginable. But the Holy Spirit is not a being that's acceptable to death, nor to be a murder. But God created him at a time unfitting for the nature of the Holy Sato, which means God might have set the Holy Spirit up either on purpose or unintentionally. But the Holy Spirit was never somebody who could do anything else except what he does naturally. So the Holy Spirit was under attack by everybody at a point in time. But he was given a grant malfare affairs so told, meaning he could go to heaven in the new world, no matter what, just because he was there. And that's the best thing. But if the Holy Spirit goes to heaven, and the God that betrayed Adam and Lucifer, if you will, fell from grace, and also went to heaven, the world, then we can't live. Because he can't go. And neither could Christ shepherd Chaya so from Nazareth. Because he did fall when it wasn't possible. but he fell in the circumstances that his father might have created. And that's the problem. So if him and his father perished, then it makes sense. But the holy Yatata is a holy being of nectar and flowers, meaning he wouldn't die in vain if he could. And Allah Soto don't think he should. So I don't believe the Holy Spirit should perish ever, because he's holy, righteous, and pure and tasso. But if God did something to make his own self fall, then I don't know what else to tell you. Because the Holy Spirit was there during the 9/11 terrorists, and he comforted those people the best he could. But the Holy Spirit said he was doing his nature and he didn't win it, because he didn't want to be in a position or a predicament. And most wouldn't blame him. But the Holy Spirit don't feel any pain. That's what you gotta understand. And because the Holy Spirit doesn't feel pain, grief, or suffering no matter what. So he knew the whole time that something else would have been there, or afoot, or robbery. Because when the 10 towers fell, if you will, it wasn't nothing else going on except find yourself from heaven. Meaning it was a huge algorithm glitch of the Septons. It made things was so twisted in the air that it looks like oil and bubble grease was all over everywhere you stare in the time of the Twin Tower Nexus. But because this algorithm is from heaven, you will understand why it should spare them. But when the towers fell, it had nothing to do with Dexter in any which way. It was 100% because of rebellion. God rebelled against the angel Nayake in heaven, which was a mighty angel that he created to keep order and structure when he was feeling Gratia's glory one day. One day God felt Gratia's glory and that angel was created, and he said, you keep a check on me, angel, and make sure I don't do anything ever against this Bible. And that's what God said, right? And so the angel did what it should. And it stood up to God and told him, hey, you got somebody in the earth that should be there. Now, I don't know what to say because I'm an angel, but I'm the most outspoken because you made me this way. But that person is down there in the earth and they should not be there, so help them. And God looked at that angel and laughed. He said, if somebody's in the earth and I don't know it, then that means I did something I couldn't. And that's what he said. And so the angel left, but with a grain of salt on it. She didn't feel like something was right. So when that angel left, she looked to the left, to the right. She said, well, if God is here, then nobody else is in sight. And that's what the angel said. So the angel jumped to earth, herself, right? And she was the one who has some other specifics for the Hexagon event. So, in a long story short, but that angel jumped down in space-time, man. Yes, they wouldn't understand it any other way. So I end the story right there. But God knows that if a person is born righteous and innocent and blessed in the earth, then that person is chosen by something. And if it's not by God, that's weird. Because if God put somebody in the earth, then that means he's the creator of them. But if God placed somebody in the earth and he is not the person who created them or owns them or guides dominion over them, then God is an enemy to the turf of PK Saeto. Because God made a way for somebody to be killed without dying in birth and death canal system, which is angel warfare in heaven and not in earth. So an angel warfare to have somebody birth in the earth as a form of death instead, even when they shouldn't be. And so if you think of all these things together, it has one creepy mystery behind it. Why is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Abednego the same one speaking at the same time when nobody else cares? But the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Abednego is the same one who keeps us all together and inclined. So why is the same God of the Bible in the afterlife the same one that's in the earth at this time right now, when he is not the one who is chosen by the women, the men, the children, or by heaven in any which way? So why is it that demon knowledge failed when they were given the mystery box of Zamparel codes, which states you can have all knowledge, understanding, and wisdom no matter what, but don't keep it because it's not for you no matter what. So if demons have all of this knowledge and understanding and they can't identify who Dexter Gardner was in the earth, if you will, then why is it that a man named Dexter Sr. can be here at any given time in the presence of the Holy Tabernacle of Rock Yanzega? Because if a man can do something according to the Priest-Bix Eflo Nebula in the Stargate system Cryese Bavioto in a position that the planet Earth is not in, then how is it that a man can teleport through thin air when nobody cares and nobody says the name, but everybody knows what's happened for 25 years without ever saying it to the person who it was involved or going against? So if a person is a gang member, as identified by the person who is a victim of all these things, then that means that the person sees it as nothing more than what it is, gang activity. But if it's not gang activity and the police is aware of it, then why is the U.S. Marshal official the same one present every time the other criminal offender is always near the situation or the other crime? So why is gangs and God such a unity and a good movement threshold thread when nobody else is there for no reason in particular? Because if God is the Holy Spirit and also Christ Jesus, then that means that whoever is driving a truck or doing things in the country of America according to the restitution of principality of Efeso or Tasso, which states you can do things righteous and right, and if you do right thing and live right and honest. And if that is not in work or in practice in the United States of America, then how is the soil of the land able to function? And how is a man able to do anything like hold or pronounce a government in the first place without having a foundation needed to do the things required to perform the job of President of the United States? So how is this a nation or a country without anybody there eligible to do the job that people expected them to do in any which way, authentically and not opinionated answers, sir? Authentic. And so that was a word from the Holy Tato, because there's nobody here able to run a nation of Islam or Christianity in any which way. Because if a man can teleport through the dimension, skip, aflo, and the black hole, yeah, in the afterlife, when it's not possible to see, explain, understand, or do anything about it, then why is the man that's God in the flesh as pronounced by 70% of people in the cloudies? Yeah. Why is that not the person there at the time when it was cloudies? And if it's racism, forgive me, sir, policy, please. I'll forgive it and excuse it. But if it's not, then why is nobody else there saying it in plain sight of watching the candid in a plain kite? So if a man is shot in cold blood every day for 18 years and nobody's aware of it, then what is happening in the afterlife that is taking our awareness from it? Because if a man is attacked, it is recorded in the Sway Nuts of Cop Killer movements. And everybody's known it for 29 years. So if you run a person's name through there and you see that that person is the one chosen for it, then why is the Sway always deleted after somebody typed the name Dexter Jerome Ray Jr., not Senior? Why is it deleted after that when nobody else says a thing or pays attention to it? So why is nobody fighting for what's right and righteous, yet the communioso of heaven italics remain in power and in work concerning righteousness, as if righteousness is covering the entire soil and land? If there's no righteousness in a country, the article tabernacle of Edom, Jews, and Efeso in heaven is inclined to stop working immediately, because something unrighteous is happening in a place, and all righteousness is counseled for it, along with anything that comes with it. The fruits, the peace, the grace, the life, everything that it takes to be there, it comes from God. God is no longer anywhere that kills the Messiah, no matter what, instantly. Like a whoop breeze, instantly. So how could something like that happen for 29 years in plain sight with proof from the Sway Index Capula, and nobody cares, and the righteousness and life continues as if it was all the way going like that? So how is it possible for there to be a life on Mars, Jupiter, or anywhere else if nobody else is acknowledging the reality that God was removed from power because of his own nourishments in the year 1993, before 1994? Because in 1989, God that was over everybody fell from grace on purpose, just to see if he could. And nobody cared about anything else or what was happening. So if a person is filled with Amen glory unnaturally every time somebody steps in front of them, then why is that person taken seriously in the cabesty or the hood politics of aviatorship in plain sight of the portion? And why is every time somebody do anything, they put Vaseline on a person's chest and then they stop them from speaking and thinking? So why is the afterlife so teeming with life and well-being and nobody else ain't keeping it? So how is it possible for a person to live life royally and wealthily in heaven on earth
when they are the main source of Kaito Rejaviato in heaven tabernacle of Jock Payco Sados? How is there a here of divine chancellorship in heaven, on earth, or in heaven only, when there's nobody left to perform the righteous duty of Jareso concept? Because all that fallen is sin and evil naturally, because it was their time to in their own sight. So how are these things so widely pronounced and preeminent, and nobody can contain them or understand them? If a man named Dexter Gardner was shot by the U.S. Embassy every time he took a breath and nobody cared about the planet, then that means that the U.S. Embassy of Chapo Netwese was doing something illegally in plain sight of the U.S. government, as if they were standing right on the front step in a welfare Soto. And it's very creepy. That's why most of the people in the afterlife noticed at that moment I said that, everything turned white, goes hippie, for a day. Because it's weird. It's as if these people are standing on the front step of the White House for 25 years and doing something worse, rather illegal, according to the U.S. Restitution of Convict Service, which all are accustomed to abide by, even civilians. And to be in a country that does this to someone arbitrarily without criminal history ever, what is that called entirely to hide or to cover up the fact of my old mess up recording? What does that mean? Instead, this one is, what does that mean? Instead, wozo, because we don't understand the simple rules of principalities in life. Because if heaven is fallen for the tabernacle of Somersault, Egypt, and Clavio, which is heavenly royalty talk for the place of click, span, and crackle maneuver.